I don't have a good intro for this, so I'm just gonna get started. I did buy a Nintendo Switch 2. I bought mine mid-July, so I've had this one for about a month and a half now. So it's not like I randomly went out to the store and said I'm gonna buy a Switch 2 today or something. I've had mine for a little while. The main reason why I didn't go out and buy one at launch was honestly because I was on a bit of a Nintendo boycott when the Switch 2 came out. It was because of a multitude of factors. So, when the console launched, I thought the price was a little too high. $450 for a Switch felt a little too much for me. On one hand, I kind of see where they got the price from. This thing can run 4K, 120 FPS, has HDR. I think even portably, it can run 1080 60 compared to the original Switch that ran, what was it, like 720 30, I think. So, on one hand, I can kind of see why they priced it like that because it is trying to compete with, the Xbox Ally, the Steam Deck, some other high performing gaming handhelds. And those things are really expensive, right? Those can get up to $1,000 depending on, the performance, the storage, stuff like that. So I think they were trying to compete with that. And so that's on one side. But then on the other, it's like that's still somewhat expensive for a home console. $450, that's pretty pricey. You're going to be dropping a hunky chunk of change for a Switch 2, right? So the price is kind of what put me off, right? I thought it's a little expensive for what it is, but at the same time, I can kind of see where they got the price for the console itself. So I was kind of, you know. But another thing that got me was $80 games. They said they can sell $80 games because Nintendo has admitted that if they think a game is worth $80, they'll sell it for $80. $80 isn't like the standard. They just said if they think a game is worth that, they will sell it for that. So, and we have seen that with Mario Kart, right? Mario Kart is worth $80. And that is just like it in so much money. That's so much money. Nearly $100 for a new game. That is just crazy, right? Like I said just a second ago, they never said that $80 is the standard, but still, $80 for a new game, that's crazy. That is so much. So that's another thing that put me off a little bit. So it was that. And then also the fact that they said they can brick your console for almost any reason. I don't know if anyone remembers this. Switch 2 was announced in what, June? And in internet history, that's in the Stone Age. No one remembers that far back. But I remember when they said they could break your console for almost any reason. And I remember hearing, I don't know if this is true because I haven't heard anyone say this, but I remember hearing that if you even use like a third party or unofficial USB-C cable to plug in your console, they could brick it, because something about the voltage, if it's third party, that stutter was terrible. Pretend you didn't hear that, but apparently if you plug in a third party USB-C cable, it might use too much electricity, and the console will flag that to Nintendo, and Nintendo could look at that and say, oh, they're trying to mod or, get into their system, brick it, make it inaccessible. That's the word I'm trying to. But just make sure they can't get into it because it looks like they're trying to mod it. So that's another thing that I thought was just really dumb and petty. So it was that on top of some other stuff too, just like, taking down emulators, taking down fan games, shutting down tournaments, stuff like that I saw as an issue. But then I saw all this new stuff that I just described, and I was like, okay, I don't want anything to do with Nintendo. So I started a boycott for a little while. I wasn't like openly vocal about it. I did make an Instagram post about it, but I wasn't like, sitting on my channel being like, you guys should boycott Nintendo. This company is trash. You shouldn't support it. I just kind of said, you know what? I don't like what they're doing. I'm not spending any more money on them. I don't want to support them. It wasn't anything like I'm never going to play a Nintendo game in my entire life. I was like, I'll enjoy what I have, But until they kind of roll back some of the crap that they're doing, I don't want to give them any more money. So that's kind of what I was on for a little while, and I did stay pretty strong to that. I didn't buy a Nintendo product until mid-July. So, but that was until I saw they were increasing the price for the original Switch, right? Like the Switch 1, the Switch Lite, and the Switch OLED. They were getting price increases. So the original Switch was going from 300 to 350, the Switch OLED was going from 350 to 400, and the Switch Lite was going from 200 to 230. Last time I checked, there were some retailers that were actually either putting them on sale or keeping the original price. That's a whole different can of worms. I'm not fully educated on the entire subject, so I can't go into like all the pricing stuff. But for a quick rundown, my little game theory is that I think Nintendo wants them to increase the price because they want to make more money. But I think retailers are seeing that everyone who wants a Switch probably already has one. So increasing the price on a product that most people have isn't going to sell it more. So I think in their eyes they're saying, well, we can't increase the price because then no one else is going to buy this. And then we're just going to have a bunch of backstock. So they said, okay, we'll either keep the price or lower it just so we can move whatever we have so we're not sitting on it forever. So that's my little game theory. I think they're just keeping the price or, selling it for less just so they can move it faster. Because no one is going to buy a 400 Switch OLED. That's pretty expensive. But when I heard all that, and when I heard that they were increasing the prices for those Switches, I thought, well, shoot, I might as well get my Switch 2 before they randomly decide that this thing is worth like 500, 550, $600. So yeah, that's the main reason I got mine. I will admit there was a little bit of genuine curiosity. I was like, well, I want to get one because I want to see what it's like. I it feels a bit, stupid. I was on my boycott, but there was that little voice in my head saying like, "Hey, what is this thing like? What are the Joy-Cons like? What is the OS like? Stuff like that." So that was a small reason, but the main reason was because I wanted to have one before they decided that this thing was worth a crazy amount of money that no one would be able to pay. So I got mine. I booted it up. I did all this stuff. And as you guys can see, I got the Mario Kart one just because I feel like that's the only one you can really get. I haven't seen, all my friends who bought one, they also got the Mario Kart edition. So I don't really think you can buy the original. So that's a whole other conspiracy. I'll lay that on you real quick. I have a little conspiracy theory that Nintendo is packing in Mario Kart World so they can have a higher sell out number. So a sell in number is when, the manufacturer sells it to the distributor. So like when Walmart buys a bunch of Nintendo Switches from Nintendo, right? That's the sell in number. It's the sell through number. The sell through number is how many units you sell to a customer. And I think Nintendo might have known or might have suspected that no one was going to pay $80 for Mario Kart. So I think what they did was they bundled in Mario Kart World on the Switch 2 for $500. And so all the customers would think, oh, that's $30 cheaper than buying it separately. I'll do that. So then they could say, well, hey, look, Mario Kart World is bundled to all these consoles. It sold this many copies. So we can justify $80, right? I think they were trying to inflate, TLDR, I think they were trying to inflate the sell-through numbers by bundling it in to help justify the $80 price tag. But there's no evidence that they did do that. That's just my little game theory. That's my little conspiracy theory. But yeah, so I got mine. I booted it up. I have played it a little bit. And honestly, I am not too sure if it's worth it. So what I'll start out with is let's just do the build quality. We'll just talk about the build quality and what it's like. I would say it's pretty solid, right? I think it's pretty good. The Joy-Cons, I don't know what Nintendo did to the new Joy-Cons, but they are so nice to like. I don't know. I really like the sticks on this. The sticks actually do feel pretty good. Like, I'm not saying you should go in like some Smash Bros tournament. You could like do all your forward aerials and like start mashing on them or anything, but if I think these probably will, stay pretty steady for a couple of years at the least, as long as you're not, slamming on them or whatever. But yeah, um, for the Joy Cons themselves, and I was just talking about them, but I would say overall they do feel a lot higher quality than the original. I think they have some cool stuff in them, right? Like, the mouse feature, um, they have better S, like, when you take a Joy-Con, you want to play on it like this, they have a bit meatier, I don't know if you can see that, but they have a bigger um, shoulder button, so that's kind of nice. The buttons overall, they feel about the same as the original Switch, so it's not like they're going to be a huge amount better, but, yeah. Overall, the Joy-Cons, not like a massive upgrade, but I think they're okay. And holding the system overall, I think I kind of have big, awkward looking hands. So I've found for me that holding this thing for a little over an hour is a little uncomfortable. But usually I hold mine like this. And I don't know, maybe I'm just holding mine wrong. But like just specifically in my pinky area, my pinky starts to cramp up a little bit. But that, like I said, that could be me because I kind of like to support the system from the bottom with my pinky like this. So that could just be me being stupid. But overall, it definitely is high quality and like a premium feeling product. Would I give this to a 7-year-old? No, probably not. At least with the original Switch, it kind of felt like it was built durably, but this, it feels a bit more fragile, like a bit softer. And I don't know if I would let a child have access to this just because it feels so high quality and it feels like you do need to take good care of this, otherwise it could just break. So that's kind of my thing. um I'm not a huge, like, I can't review physicality or anything like that too much. That's not really my area of expertise, but I guess TLDR, it feels nice. Personally, I think for a handheld it does feel a little too big. Like this is a really hefty boy. Like, you're not just going to be carrying this in your back pocket like a DS or a PSP or something. So for portability, it's probably not the best, but it's okay. For portability, it's okay. You could put it in a case, put it in a bag, and you'll be fine. You'll live, but it's not as convenient as like a DS or a PS Vita or a 3DS or whatever. If we move on to, like, all the like stuff inside, as you can see, the operating system, the home menu, it's the exact same. You know, nothing's really changed. You go to your game library, all this, it's pretty samey. So you're not getting anything too new there. Um, there is a couple new features. I think this is this little news thing new? Has that always been there? I can't tell. There's the virtual key card, is that what it is? Or virtual game card. You got that on the menu now, so that's cool. I'm gonna be honest, I don't really understand what any of this means, but it's there. So there's that. Oh, another thing. I forgot the kickstand. It's a little awkward to get out, but here's the kickstand. It's honestly, I think I prefer the kickstand on the OLED. That felt a bit more secure. But this is way better than the original Switch kickstand. Like, this will definitely be a lot better. Um, so yeah, that's oh, unrelated. One thing I love, when I was setting up my Nintendo account on my Nintendo Switch 2, they got new Fire Emblem avatars. If you know me, you know I love Fire Emblem. So of course I immediately had to get Crom on mine. So kind of cool. I also just realized I flashed my friend code. That might be a mistake. That's gonna be a huge mistake, actually. I'm gonna have to blur that out probably. But yeah, so overall, it doesn't feel too different from the original Switch. Like, the OS isn't anything new. The outside isn't anything new. I remember one concern people had was, I don't know if you can see this, but there's a little chip right there, and that's how the Switch knows that a Joy-Con is there. I remember some people said they might worry, or they worried that maybe you could like snap that chip off. I personally haven't seen any issues with that. I think there is a bit more flex. I don't know if you can see that. There is a bit more flex in these Joy-Cons right here than I would like. But let's be real here for a second. Most people aren't going to be taking their Switch and going like, this all the time. As long as you treat it like a normal console and just be kind of gentle with it, you should be fine. What I'm doing here, like flipping it up like this, that's probably not good. You probably should be doing that. But, I think as long as you take somewhat good care of it, physically, I think you'll be okay. So, I guess, I was playing some of this last night, actually, but let's talk about Mario Kart. Like I said earlier, I did get the Mario Kart bundle, so of course I was playing a little bit of that. I don't have too much time in it. I only have 15 hours. I'm not as big into Mario Kart as I used to be, so if I was like what 12, 13, 14 when I was really big into Mario games, I would have been obsessed with Mario Kart World. I can tell, but sadly, it's not my cup of tea anymore. But as for Mario Kart World, when I first started playing it, I honestly wasn't that big of a fan. I guess I'll just throw this out there. I'll give like a quick Mario Kart review, and I'll talk about some other stuff, and then I'll wrap this video. I'll wrap this up because I've been going for about 60 minutes. It's ridiculous. So I promise I'll try to finish it up within 20 minutes. Been talking for a lot longer than I thought I was. Jeez, I'm so sorry, guys. I'm a bit of a yapper. I'm sorry. um, as for Mario Kart, yeah, I played a little bit of it. I first started. I honestly wasn't that big of a fan. I've been playing Mario Kart 8 pretty much since it came out back in like what 2017, 2018. So I got really used to all the tracks and the controls and just all the mechanics and everything like that. So when I got started with Mario Kart World, already like the drifting felt weird, the steering felt weird, the gliding felt weird. Just the overall controls felt weird. They felt different. But after playing it for the 15 hours that I have, honestly, just randomly one day they just like snapped into place. They just clicked. It just worked for some reason. I don't know why. I just remember picking it up one day and doing all the drifting and stuff, and I was like, whoa, this actually feels pretty good once you get used to it. So there's that. So I will say, if you are really accustomed to Mario Kart 8, it will take you a little bit of time to get used to Mario Kart World's controls. That was my biggest thing. I'm sure for more casual people, they're not really going to care, but that was just mine. As for just the game overall, I don't know why I got into the controls first. That was just the first thing I noticed when I played. But as for the game overall, I will start with the intermission tracks. In my opinion, I realize most of the time I'm a bit of a fence sitter, and I kind of am here too. But in all honesty, I feel like people were kind of over. They were a little bit too critical about the intermission tracks, just in my opinion. I kind of get both sides. I do think they're not as fun as the regular tracks. Like, if you're asking me if I'd rather play, like, Cheap Cheap Falls or intermission between Peach's Castle and Rainbow Road, like, of course, I'm going to want to play the classic 3-lap tracks. Those are just more fun. So I get what people are saying there. The intermission tracks aren't as fun, and the fact that they're just being, like, shoved down your throat when you play online, like, you have to do intermission tracks, kind of sucks, right? I understand that. Most of them are just a straight line. There's not too much usually going on with them, and they're just not as fun. So I get that. But in my opinion, you still can do stuff. You can still get items, you can still hit people with items, you still have the opportunity to like pass people in those intermission tracks. So I guess what I'm trying to say is I do see where people are coming from, but they're also really not as bad as people have been saying. When I got started with the intermission tracks, I was kind of already in the mindset that I would hate them just because everyone else said that they were terrible, they were unfun. So I was like, okay, I'm prepared to have just a bad time, but unfun time. But then once I got started and I did some of them, I was like, okay, they're not as fun as the regular tracks, but there still is stuff to do. So I think people were kind of just overblowing how bad the intermission tracks were. Um, 24 players, I am not the biggest fan of that because there's so much chaos that can happen. Because at least in Mario Kart 8, there was chaos, but it was only 12 players, so it felt somewhat controlled. But with 24, it feels like a little bit too much. There have been some races where I'm just getting slapped with items left and right. It's like no matter how much I try to keep up, the game just won't let me. And that's another issue. The AI is really difficult. There was actually an article written when the game came out that the AI is a lot more cutthroat than it has been. Okay, I'm already at the 20-minute mark, so I promise I will try to wrap this up. But the AI is a lot more cutthroat than usual. So, just the game is overall harder, not only because of the harder AI, but because there's so many players, there's more opportunities to get hit and less chances for you to win. So that's not as fun either. But after putting the 15 hours that I have into it, honestly, I gotta say, it's really fun. I I know that seems completely backwards for everything I just said, but honestly, it's a really fun game, right? It's Mario Kart. You're not gonna have a bad time playing Mario Kart. So I've had a lot of fun with it. I love the characters. I mostly just play as Daisy. I'm gonna be real. I like playing Daisy on the B Dasher, but all those characters is cool. I will say it's kind of weird how we have some random characters like Spike and the cow from Moo Moo Meadows. I've always said this. What did Nintendo see when they saw the cow from Moo Moo Meadows and they were like, yeah, we got to put that in the track. That we got to put that in the game. It's got to be there. So some of the characters are kind of like, why? It almost puts Mario Kart 7 to shame because remember when Mario Kart 7 came out, people were like, Queen Bee Lakitu, who wants to play these characters? But now we have like you can play as a bloop, not a blooper, but you can play as a Cheep Cheep. You can play as a Spike. You can play it's so weird, but yeah. But overall, I would say the game is fun. The graphics look nice. The game is fun to play. I love the carts. The cart design in Mario Kart World is actually really good. The B Dasher is nice. The little blooper car is nice. The plush buggy is another one of my favorites. Like overall, all the carts look nice. The game is fun. I enjoy playing it. When I first played it, I was kind of like meh, but then as I got into it and I played it a bit more, I was having a pretty good time. So I enjoyed all of that. So overall, would I say the system is worth it? Um, I would say if you're a really big fan of Mario Kart and you expect to play a lot of Mario Kart, sure, right? Like Mario Kart's one of those games where you can get hundreds and thousands and tens of thousands of hours into it just because it's Mario Kart. It's infinitely replayable. So I think Nintendo knows this. That's why they bundle in Mario Kart with their systems most times, like they did with the Switch 2, obviously. So I would say for right now, Mario Kart definitely is a pretty heavy hitter and a decent enough reason. If you enjoy Mario Kart, I would say it's a decent reason to buy a Switch 2. But if you're more of a casual Nintendo fan, like you just enjoy playing a couple tens of hours of Animal Crossing a couple times a week, or if you're just a Zelda fan and maybe you just like putting in a couple hours of Breath of the Wild or something, like just if you're a more casual fan, no, not really, honestly, because you can play. Well, there's not that many Switch 2 games right now, so we're gonna have to wait for more of those. So a lot of the Switch games you're probably going to be playing on Switch 2 are just going to be either those Switch remasters, like, because you know how some games have upgrades or enhancements. So if you're looking for just like new Switch 2 games to play, just hold up a little bit because the only real games that are worth note right now are Mario Kart World and Donkey Kong Bonanza. So, and if neither of those really interest you, then you probably just wait up a little bit. We are getting a new Pokemon game, so we're slowly working through some new Switch 2 exclusives to keep you hooked. But if you're like a die-hard hardcore Nintendo fan, then you probably already own this. But if you're a more casual fan looking for some new Switch 2 games to play, then keep your original Switch, your Switch OLED, your Switch Lite, because unless you're just looking for something new to play, you're probably okay, right? You're probably like me. I usually just kept replaying like Mario Kart 8, a little bit of Splatoon, some Fire Emblem. You'll live. So that's kind of my thing on it. So I'm already at 25 minutes. I'm so sorry. You guys did not need to hear me yap for this long, but I just wanted to say all this just because I thought, in case anything major changes, I want to be able to look back at this video and look at my opinion then. And I just wanted to be honest with you guys, because I just like telling you guys what stuff is going on, like what I think. So, yeah. Yeah, I've been yapping for too long, so I will end this video now. So, overall, the build quality is nice. Mario Kart is fun. If you're a casual player, you probably don't need to switch to right now. But if you like Mario Kart, pick it up. I would say Mario Kart is, one of those games that is system seller. So if you really like Mario Kart, go for it. But other than that, you're just fine waiting because most of the catalog is Switch games anyway. So if you have a Switch, you're not missing out on anything too major. So that's kind of my thoughts. Sorry you guys had to listen to me yap this long. I'm a bit of a yapper. I'm sorry, but yeah. Feel free. Let me know if you disagreed with anything I said. Maybe if I'm completely wrong about the operating system, like the home menu or the games, or my little game theories about the sell-through numbers or how many they're selling or whatever. Feel free to let me know about all that. Feel free to let me know what you think about the Switch 2. I'd be interested to see what other people think. I think that'd be kind of cool. Um, like the video if you liked it. I don't know, but yeah, that's just what I thought. If you guys agree, if you disagree, let me know. That's about all I got. So I hope you guys have a wonderful rest of your day. I love you, and I will see you all later.